Welcome to the Oldcastle Inventor video series using iMates. In this video, I'll show you the key principles of iMates, how they may be applied to adding lifters, and then managing the lifter location as your model progresses closer to completion. Simply put, iMates are an augmentation to Inventor's constraint feature. They allow the designer to speed up a repetitive assembly task by minimizing the amount of constraining he or she needs to perform on components. Where there is a predictable relationship between specific parts and features, iMates is truly the way to go. They can even be set up to automatically attach themselves when a component is dropped into the assembly environment. During this video, I will be showing you some unfamiliar terminology, and you may want to pause it to take notes. We're going to first begin
so
having a pencil and a notepad handy will be helpful.
The first thing that we need to do is, well, number one, open your lifter, and we'll go to the Manage tab. In the Manage tab, if you look up here, we'll find this little iMate button. Go ahead and click it, and it's going to basically bring up a familiar window. This is basically the constraint window up here, and down here is the augmentation for the iMate. So what it's asking us to do right now is to pick a feature on our lifter, depending on how we want to set this up. So one thing to note here is that we're going to set up 3 iMates. They're all going to be nested under a composite. And it has to be done this way so that when the recipient of this iMate looks for the composite, it will know that all 3 of the iMates need to be matched at the same time. That's extremely important to getting this lifter in the correct position in your assembly model. So the very first iMate that we're going to set up is going to be our axis point, which it's going to attach. And when we do that, it's going to add our little iMate glyph to that very first attachment point that we make. And I'll demonstrate that right now. So let's go ahead and add our position. We're going to add our position I by selecting the y-axis. And we're going to leave it at 0. For the name, we're going to type in position I. I'm going to copy this just so I have all of my lettering the same, and that's extremely important to note here, that you need to spell everything, including uppercase and lowercase. It is case sensitive. Keep that in mind. So position I is going to match position S. So if you come over to the matching tab, we'll want to add a new match, and we can paste position I in there. We're just going to delete the I and overwrite it with S. We'll hit apply. We'll have to hit apply again. And as you can see, it added this little iMate glyph. It's basically just a little graphic so that when we add this lifter into our assembly, we can have a visual indication that there is in fact an iMate on our lifter that can be used for constraining purposes. So while this box is still open, I'm going to go ahead and add my second iMate, leaving this at 0. And I'm going to toggle the solution from mate to flush. This is extremely important in making sure that your iMate matches up to the concrete surface. If it isn't set to flush, you'll know right away because your iMate isn't going to work. So make sure you switch it to flush, and we'll be able to avoid all conflicts. We'll want to choose the top surface of our lifter. After we do that, we can come down here and we can name it. We're going to call this mate plane. Notice the capitals on mate and plane. We'll add an I after it. I'm going to copy it and add a new matching iMate. So this is the recipient. This box down here is the recipient that it's looking for to match up with. I'm going to delete the I and add S. So I is looking for the S. Mate plane I, looking for mate plane S. Set to flush still, hit apply again. And we need to add our orientation plane. I'm going to switch it back from flush to mate. I'm going to find this horizontal plane, cutting straight through the lifter in the long direction. I'm going to call this mate plane. I'm sorry, orientation plane. Nope, not orientation plane, just orientation. I. Again, we're going to Control C to copy, come down to the matching, hit a new one, add orientation S, and hit apply. And from here, we can hit cancel. We'll want to come over to this new iMate folder that was just created. And if you drop that down, here you'll see the 3 iMates that we just created. So we'll need to take this one step further in order to create the iMate to give us a result that we're looking for. So these 3 by themselves, unfortunately, is just not good enough. We need to put these together. We're basically going to group these together into what is called a composite. And what that means is that anytime this is entered into assembly, the iMate that is trying to form will need all 3 of these to get together in one composite iMate. So 1 isn't good enough, 2 isn't good enough, all 3 will need to be made into a composite. So if you click one of them and then hold shift and then click the remaining 2 iMates, you can then right click on one of them and go to create composite. So we have a case situation here now that we have our composite and it has all these 3 iMates. So all 3 of these need to have a matching recipient with the S after it on our concrete in order to properly make our iMate match. Alright, so from here I'm going to hit save and I'm going to close my V-anchor lifter. This is my assembly environment. I'm going to open the base section all by itself. And we want to create a new sketch. So I'm going to go right click, new sketch, place it on the outside of the long wall here. And this is, just as an example, but you can place your sketch on whatever wall you need to. Maybe it's the base section, maybe it's the bottom of the base section, maybe it's the interior wall. So we will go to the Chloe tab and create locator block, hit this. What this is telling me is that my block already exists over in my block folder. That's fine. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. You may not see that. I'll open my block folder and here you'll see this locator. You can one click left click and drag this over onto your sketch, and it kind of just randomly drops it into wherever it really wants to. But that's okay. Once you get the 2 on there, we'll want to just click the center point of your iMate glyph and just the locator block and just drag it onto your sketch. We can add some dimensions. I hit D for dimension from this top line, and I'm just going to throw in some arbitrary values here. They're not super important to me at the moment, just to demonstrate the concept of these. And one more over here. And again, if you remember that orientation plane, basically what's going to happen is that orientation plane on our lifter is going to match up with this straight line on our iMate block locator. So I'm going to come over to the sketch tab and I'm going to use one of my orientation constraints to constrain this horizontally, and there you have it. You can see how they turn blue. They're fully constrained. I'm going to right click and go to finish 2D sketch. Apply the same tactic to the opposite side. And turn these off so they're not as annoying, these dimensions on the opposite face. Drag my block over, zoom out maybe because they do throw them kind of in a random spot. Get them up on the sketch there and add my dimensions. If you have your parameter set up for your lifter dimensions, this is where you're going to want to add them. Rather than adding 19, you'll want to add the actual parameter. Okay, go ahead and finish. Oh, let me get these orientated. There we go. And turn the dimensions off to clean it up a little bit. Okay, and then we'll want to use this nifty little tool up here called the Mass iMate Flush. So what this is going to do is it's going to automatically make your iMates on the concrete surface. So once you do that, it's basically just going to prompt you to pick the plane. And once you do that, bam and bam, there you go. 2 iMate glyphs were added for those 2 locator blocks that we place on that sketch. We'll want to do the same for the opposite face. Go to Mass iMate Flush, click on that face, and there you have it. 2 iMates on either side. We'll want to go ahead and save. We're going to close, come back to our assembly environment, and this is where we have a couple of options in how to add our lifters. The first option is go to place. When we do that, you'll want to find your lifter that we created the iMates for. Just left click it once, and then down here you'll notice where it says iMates. There's a little interactively placed with iMates button. Go ahead and click that so it turns blue or a darker shade. And when you hit open, it's automatically going to attach our lifters to any iMate that it finds the recipient composite relationship for. So once you notice that it finds one of them, you can right click off to the side and use this place all matching iMate button. And what it'll do is it'll place all the matching iMates for any of the other composites that it finds in our concrete base section. Alright, so that was one technique. I'm going to go ahead and just delete these V anchors real quick. If you have your lifter just floating off to the side, what you can do is you can use the Alt Drag technique. And this is Inventor's way of letting you, so when you click Alt and you start moving around potentially iMate setup parts, it's going to show you this little glyph. And when so I still have Alt held down, I can left click and drag this iMate glyph over to a potentially correct iMate recipient, and it attached itself. I'll just add a few more of these lifters, hold Alt and click and drag. And like I said, that's an exceptionally beneficial way of adding your lifters into their correct locations if you've already got them in your assembly environment. Now, if you don't, it's probably faster to just use that iMate button and then automatically place all matching iMates. Managing your lifter locations can be easy at this point. What we can do, as you notice, that these lifters are actually 90 degrees from the correct orientation that I want them to be in my assembly. So what we can do is we can just double click on our concrete base section, and at any time we can change the orientation of these lines. So I'm going to hit F8 to show my constraints, and I'm going to right click on these little constraint images, hit delete, find this one, kind of drag it off to the side, hit delete, and then use the correct orientation line to change them vertically. And when I hit cancel and then finish 2D sketch, we'll want to go to the other side, do the same, hit F8 to show your constraints, right click on them to delete them. I'm going to hit F9 to turn them back off. Reuse the other orientation constraint. Finish my 2D sketch. And now when I go to return back to my assembly, you'll notice how they flip 90 degrees. And at any point, one more thing to demonstrate here, If I change my dimensions, notice how the iMake lifts jump to my new dimension. When I hit return, the lifters should snap. One thing to note here, that if you don't see an automatic update in your assembly, it probably just means that you have this defer updates under your manage tab turned on. Go ahead and just turn that off, hit the update button when it turns yellow for the local update, and you should notice your lifters jump into the correct location. In order to truly understand the benefit of the Chloe command, mass imate flush, let's go ahead and build our iMates on our locator blocks manually. So here I just have my base section, and I'm going to add a new sketch to the outside wall. Find my locator in my block folder, drag it onto the screen. I'm going to add 2 of them, get them in sort of an arbitrary location, add my dimensions, hit finish sketch. I'm going to turn my dimensions off on my sketch, and just like we did with the actual lifter itself, we're going to go ahead and go to our Manage tab, find the iMate button up here, and start adding our iMates. So it's going to automatically find this 2D information on our sketch here, which is exactly what we need. So first we're going to add our position, and remember it's going to be the opposite of what we just did. So rather than adding the I to the end of our nomenclature, we're going to use S. This is the matching recipient of the I. So let's go ahead and choose our cylinder, add the name, which is position S. I'm going to copy that and add to the matching folder position I. Go ahead and hit apply. Make sure it's set to mate. We're going to choose our orientation line, set to 0. Orientation S is going to be looking for iMate's orientation I. Hit apply. And let's toggle this from mate to flush. Choose the exterior surface of our concrete here. This is going to be mate plane S, looking for mate plane I. Go ahead and hit apply, cancel, and again this is where we need to make our composite. Go ahead and click the top one, shift, and then select the next 3. Right click on one of them, go to create composite, and we'll want to do that for our second one over here. iMate, we'll do the position S, which is going to be our circle. This will match with position I. I'm going to paste it in there, delete the S, add the I, hit apply. Choose our line for the orientation, S, looking for orientation I, apply, and then switch it to flush to choose the face for our mate plane. S, looking for mate plane I. Hit apply and then cancel. Again, we'll want to choose these 3, right click to create composite. And there we have it. I'm going to save this back to my base section. Hit update, And I'm going to place my lifter by using the interactively place command. Open. As you can see, it found one instance. I'll right click and go to place all matching iMates, and then found my second instance.
Well, there you have it, everyone. I hope this video helped fill in some of the gaps you may have had in understanding the benefits of iMates, or forged a new path in your design process. It'll ultimately be up to you to decide what you like faster, but when placing many objects in a wall, my go-to is always iMates. This allows me to control the location of several components from one sketch surface, rather than having to sift through a file tree and find each and every constraint controlling the left to right position. And as always, I encourage you to leave your comments in the comments section under the video, or email me directly, and I'll be sure to respond as quickly as I can. Thanks for watching.